Welcome. This is Michael Kornbluth. This is the Do It All Dad Year podcast. So glad you could make it. I'm getting very fired up. I have an open call audition for Showtime at the Apollo Amateur Night tomorrow afternoon in Harlem. I can't wait. Of course, I'll be sampling some jokes that I plan on showcasing there. This is episode 6, Showtime at the Apollo. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. My daughter is obsessed with Norway these days because we're going there in 9 days. My daughter will say this, I hear Norway's very progressive, Dada. And I'll say, totally. The female prime minister of Norway would smash her 13 BlackBerry devices to pieces with the hammer of Thor without going down with it. That joke's a little bit too specific for the Apollo Theater. Not that I'm trying to sound like I'm talking down to them, but way too divisive and political. Although, let's be honest, folks. I mean, everyone always talks about the black community being such a big fan of Hillary. I don't understand how that's possible. It makes no sense to me. Especially knowing, let me put it this way. How much more out of touch can you be with the working man, like De Niro in Bronx Tale, when it takes you not 1, but 6 times to get your MetroCard to work? Talk about the most failed debacle of a photo op ever. It took her 6 times to get her MetroCard to work. And by the 6th swipe, you could see, from the pictures, you could see Hillary Hammer Time Cankles sweat profusely inside, thinking to herself, black people are watching. You can do it! My 7-year-old daughter, Matilda, perfect Matilda, her new play wrestling catchphrases emerged from increased tussle time with her younger brother, Archer USA, are this. They're all hilarious. Watch and learn. I'll sit on you. Doesn't hurt for a sec. She kills me. So, what you realize when you have children is that fart humor, most comedy doesn't age well, but a really good, well-constructed fart joke always works, especially among children. For example, last night, my daughter really lets it rip. We're talking hopping on top of a Harley, motorcycle sort of rip, and it just keeps on going. The fart keeps on going. And then I wait for it to subside, the fart, and then I say, Matilda, it sounds like you just set off 50 whoopee cushions. And she laughed. It was a sustained laugh. It was a beautiful moment. This is my daughter impersonating your next Miss America. Put your hands together for your next Miss America. But Trump, keep your hands up high where I can see them. Daddy, this is a double record. This is my son. Obviously, I need to work on my impersonations because I sounded like my daughter there for a second. But this happened this morning. It was a beautiful moment. My younger son, Arthur, he's 4. He said, Daddy, this is a double record. I let him pick the record out, and the record turned out to be Tommy by The Who. I will miss working remote when it's gone, gone, gone. Never thought being a father to boys would be this much fun. No punchline there, just a meaningful, whimsical thought. That's all. It's hard not to stay mad at my in-laws knowing that they took in a rescue dog and pay for its daycare when they haven't spent a penny on daycare for any of their 3 grandkids so far. And to make matters worse, my Nazi apologist father-in-law has to name the dog Heidi. Now, they had to know that naming the dog Heidi would rub me the wrong way. For example, my first short story published, I don't drink German Rieslings. I never said that to them. They would have read it anyway. But on top of that, Heidi, how would they know? How would they not know that would completely infuriate me? Knowing that their son-in-law is an obnoxiously loud New York Jew who's louder than Busta Rhymes and a midnight showing of Higher Learning. So I was at a barbershop earlier today to get ready for my set at the Apollo, and the barbershop owner says, "You're not in a rush, right?" And I was with my two kids at the time, and it's around 1:30 in the afternoon. And I said, "Was the state of my beard a dead giveaway?" Chicago's greatest hits. Huge fan of Chicago. Took my daughter to see Chicago for my 40th birthday. I know it sounds a little Woody Allen-esque, but that's not the case. So I took her to see Chicago. But Chicago's greatest hits, I love Chicago. Jimi Hendrix, for the record, quoted as saying, "The horn section of Chicago is like your own set of lungs." He also said the guitarist of Chicago blew him away. Check out the doc on Netflix. So, Chicago's greatest hits, my point originally. Chicago's greatest hits loses its sway on your heart at 41, 3 kids later. Every song is about being miserable without her. How can I go on? How can I go on? Charmanu push to fall into, for starters. A cheerleader for the Baltimore Ravens got sent to jail for raping a 15-year-old boy. My 10th grade English teacher forced me to memorize The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe against my free will. All she got for was 10-year and more poetry rejection letters from the New Yorker. Great joke. A little elitist, but I don't give a shit. So I was talking before about getting ready for my set list at the Apollo. And why is this important to me? Because I am 41 years old. I have dedicated myself to becoming a professional funny man since I was 23. Now, is me killing at the Apollo going to be the validation that I crave? Yes, it is. Because I love making my New York brothers and sisters laugh. It is a tremendous source of pride and joy for me. We're talking about myself here. I got a call back for a Paul Mooney sketch comedy show in Harlem. First time in Harlem ever. And I was selling PR news monitoring service at the time for a company called Cision. And I got one of those announcements on my email. I had to audition. It's Paul Mooney. In case you guys don't know, Paul Mooney was best friends with Richard Pryor, wrote a lot of jokes with Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor is considered the greatest stand-up comic of all time. A lot of his political consciousness, a lot of that stemmed from Paul Mooney's influence. Very funny guy. Also not the biggest fan of Whitey. So when I was up in Harlem, I was not expecting the Paul Mooney to be there. So it was a callback. I have not had many callbacks in my life. Be very honest about that. See Paul Mooney. I said, I got to approach him. So I approach him. I get extreme resistance from the start, obviously. First thing he says is, "Yeah, you can sit over there with, the rest of the cattle call." And I said, and I show no fear. And I say, "But Mr. Mooney, I read your book." And he says, "Oh, you read my book?" And then I was able to hold his attention for a tad longer. Now understand, I look like Hugh Grant on stilts. I'm the enemy. At first he's like, "Get away from me, Scarsdale scumbag. I want nothing to do with you." But a nice lesson here. You show some sort of acknowledgement. What we used to call this when I learned how to work as a headhunter, they call it the KKP, the kiss, kick, push. So my big kiss was, "I read your book." And that was it. It's like, "Oh, you read my book." And I also forgot to mention that prior to this conversation, another way that Paul Mooney tried to dissuade me from having anything to do with him was, because I extended my hand to shake his hand, and he says, "I'm not going to grip the hand that you grip your dick with," or something to that effect. So anyway, after I'm done rambling to him, he passes by me after I'm sitting down. After I'm done talking to Paul Mooney, I said my piece, gave my respect, talked about the book, passes by me, I'm sitting down, and looks him straight in the eye, and he says, "I hear you're funny." So that's why I'm doing the Apollo tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen. He did not have to say that. My own mother my own flesh and blood, 12 years ago, in Park Slope, ages ago, when Lena Dunham had much skinnier arms and wasn't so full of herself. Her exact words, I can't respect your decision to pursue a career in comedy. You can slice and dice that any way you want. But it's a bitch move. I'll use the C word. It's a C word move. You don't do that to your firstborn. You say go after it. Make it happen. Don't be a pussy about it. And that's what I'm doing. Because in this world, as Tony Montana once says, all you've got in this world is your balls. And in addition to that, your unyielding belief in you. And that belief only deepens and gets more emboldened the more you throw your balls out on the line. And that's what I'm doing the Apollo tomorrow. I'm going to slam it down home. Georgetown University went to apologize for slavery. Took long enough. But what Georgetown University really should apologize for is letting Allen Iverson fail more money management from do-rags to riches. So, Do It All Dad Year podcast. Dad-friendly entertainment for you and me. Can't wait to tell you about my momentous, larger-than-life killer set at the famed Apollo Theater tomorrow. Working remote can make our kids great again. Do It All Dad Year. I'm your host, Michael Kornbluth. It's a real mouthful, I know. Kim Kardashian can wrap her mouth around it. I'll talk to you soon.